The great chamber of the Galactic Council stretched wide enough to hold 5,000 beings. Crystal columns rose from floor to ceiling, glowing with soft blue light. In the center, a massive circular platform floated above the ground where representatives from 47 species sat in their designated positions. The air hummed with translation devices working overtime, turning thousands of alien words into meanings everyone could understand. Ambassador Chen Wei sat in Earth's seat, her hands folded neatly on the smooth surface before her. She wore a simple gray suit, nothing like the elaborate armor and ceremonial robes that surrounded her. Her face showed no emotion as the debate raged around her like a storm. The Outer Rim territories belonged to those strong enough to hold them, the voice boomed from the Vrexian section. Chapter Master Keltheron stood at his full height, nearly 3 meters tall. His forearms spread wide in a gesture of dominance. His exoskeleton gleamed red under the chamber lights. The Delthian species has proven too weak to maintain control. We claim their colonies by right of strength. Across the chamber, the Delthian representative made a high-pitched sound of distress. The small gray-skinned being's tentacles trembled. We have held those worlds for 3 generations. The Council laws protect established territories. Keltheron's mandibles clicked and what humans had learned was laughter. Laws are for those who can enforce them. Can you enforce them, little Delthian? Chen Wei watched this exchange as she had watched hundreds like it over the past 15 years. She made no move to speak. Her tablet recorded everything automatically, storing data that would travel back to Earth on the next secure transmission. Around her, other species joined the argument. Some supported the Vrexians. Others defended the Delthians, though their voices grew quieter when Keltheron turned his compound eyes toward them. This was how the Galactic Council worked. The strong took what they wanted. The weak either accepted their fate or found stronger allies. Honor and strength decided everything. Military power meant everything. Humanity had learned these rules quickly after making first contact 17 years ago. The Zephrani ambassador, a being made of flowing energy contained in a crystalline shell, spoke next. Perhaps a compromise exists. The Delthians could maintain 3 of their 5 colonies. The Vrexians would claim the other 2. This prevents total displacement while acknowledging military realities. Unacceptable, Keltheron said immediately. We want all 5. The Delthians can relocate to smaller worlds more appropriate for their limited capabilities. Chen Wei made another note on her tablet. She observed the way Keltheron positioned his warriors around the chamber. She noted which species looked away when he spoke and which ones met his gaze. Every detail mattered. Every interaction revealed something useful. A human military analyst back on Earth would study this recording. They would add it to 15 years of accumulated data about Vrexian tactical thinking, their notion of honor, their predictable aggression. They would file it alongside similar observations about every other species in the Council. The human remained silent as always, Keltheron said suddenly, his eyes fixed on Chen Wei. Tell us, Ambassador Chen, does your species have an opinion? Or are you too frightened to speak? Chen Wei looked up from her tablet. She met Keltheron's gaze for exactly 2 seconds, then returned to her notes. She said nothing. Laughter rippled through sections of the chamber. Not all species joined in, but enough did. Humanity's silence had become a joke over the years. A species that barely spoke, never fought, never competed for territory beyond their initial 12 colony worlds. They attended every council session but participated in almost none. Perhaps they are still learning our ways, said Ambassador Thornak of the Kelvid Collective, though his tone suggested he did not believe this charitable interpretation. They are very young, after all. Their faster-than-light technology is barely 2 decades old. Young and weak, Keltheron said. A poor combination. I wonder why we allow them on the Council at all. They contribute nothing. They claim valuable space that stronger species could use better. Chen Wei continued taking notes. Her expression never changed. She had heard these insults before in various forms from various species. Earth's diplomatic corps had developed a simple policy in response. Observe, record, and remain silent. Let them talk. Let them reveal themselves. Learn everything possible about how they think, how they fight, what they value, and what they fear. Back on Earth, humanity was doing something the Galactic Council had never seen before. They were not building for honor or glory or territorial expansion. They were building for survival. Every insult at council meetings was another data point. Every display of military strength was analyzed and countered. Every cultural value was studied for weaknesses. Humanity had spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war against itself. They had nearly destroyed their own planet multiple times. They had built weapons that could end all life on their world in hours. They had fought wars where millions died for miles of territory. They understood something most council species did not. There was no honor in extinction, and survival required whatever tactics worked. But the galaxy did not know this. They saw only Earth's silence and mistook it for weakness. The vote came as Chen Wei expected. 31 species voted to strip the Delthians of their colonies. 8 voted against. 7 abstained. Humanity abstained, as it usually did. The decision was final. Within a month, Phyrexian warships would arrive at Delthian worlds, and the small gray beings would have to leave the homes they had built over generations. Now for the next matter, the council speaker announced. The speaker was an ancient being from the Thal species, tall and thin with skin like polished stone. The Phyrexian Dominion has petitioned for expansion into Sector 447. This sector currently contains 3 human colony worlds. The Phyrexians propose these worlds be transferred to their control, with human populations relocated to preserve our commitment to avoiding loss of life. Chen Wei's hand stopped moving on her tablet. This was new. In 15 years, no species had directly challenged human territory. They had insulted humans, dismissed them, and ignored them, but they had never attempted to take human worlds. Keltheron spoke with supreme confidence. These 3 worlds would serve the Dominion well. They are underutilized by human standards. We calculate humans occupy only 40% of available land area. We would develop them fully. Humanity would receive 3 smaller worlds in Sector 662 as compensation. Everyone benefits, the chamber murmured with interest. Some species seemed surprised by this bold move. Others looked eager to see how the silent humans would respond. Chen Wei slowly closed her tablet. She stood and the chamber quieted slightly. 47 species watched to see if humanity would finally break its long silence with something more than an abstention vote. Earth will review this proposal, Chen Wei said, her voice calm and clear. We will provide our response within 30 days. Then she sat back down. That was all. No protest, no anger, no defense of human territory. Just a simple acknowledgement that she had heard the proposal. Keltheron's mandibles clicked again. I believe we have our answer already. The humans will accept as they always do. They understand their place in the galactic order. More laughter filled the chamber. Chen Wei opened her tablet and resumed taking notes. She recorded Keltheron's exact words, his tone, his body language. Everything went into the file that would reach Earth Command within hours. The council moved on to other business. Chen Wei stayed for the full 8-hour session, just as she always did. She voted when required, always choosing abstention or following the majority. She never drew attention. She never made waves. When the session finally ended, she gathered her materials and walked through the massive corridors of the council station. Other ambassadors passed her without acknowledgement. A few nodded politely. Most ignored her completely. Back in Earth's modest embassy suite, Chen Wei activated the secure communication system. The quantum entanglement link connected her directly to Geneva, to the office of the Secretary General of Earth's United Government. Report, came the voice on the other end. The Phyrexians have made their move, Chen Wei said quietly. They want our colony worlds. The Council expects us to surrender them without resistance. And your recommendation? Chen Wei allowed herself a small smile, the first emotion she had shown all day. Continue as planned. Remain silent. Let them believe what they want to believe. The longer they underestimate us, the better our position becomes. Understood. The defense grid construction is ahead of schedule. The fleet exercises are showing excellent results. Our doctrine development teams have finished the analysis of Phyrexian tactical patterns. When the time comes, if it comes, we will be ready. Good, Chen Wei said, because I think that time is approaching faster than we anticipated. She ended the transmission and stood at the window of her office. Outside, the stars shone against the black of space. Somewhere out there, 3 human colonies continued their normal lives, unaware that they had become pawns in a game much larger than they knew, and somewhere else on distant Earth, military planners were refining strategies that the galaxy had never imagined. The council chamber felt different this time. Chenwei noticed it the moment she entered. The usual pre-session conversations were quieter. Representatives glanced toward the Vrexian section more often than normal. Something was coming, and everyone seemed to know it except her. She took her seat and prepared her tablet as always. Around her, the 47 species of the Galactic Council settled into their positions. The session began with standard matters: trade disputes, border clarifications, research sharing agreements. Chenwei participated minimally, as she always did. She voted when required. She spoke only to confirm Earth's positions on minor matters. Then Chapter Master Keltherin stood, and the chamber's atmosphere changed completely. "Honored Council," Keltherin began, his voice carrying the weight of someone about to say something important. "I have requested this special session to address a matter of galactic security and the continued integrity of Council standards." Chen Wei's attention sharpened, though her face showed nothing. Her fingers rested lightly on her tablet, ready to record. "Over the past months, my science division has conducted extensive studies on the species represented in this council. We wanted to understand what makes some species strong and others weak, what allows some to thrive while others barely survive. We have made discoveries that this council must hear." Keltherin gestured, and a massive display activated in the center of the chamber. Images and data streams filled the air, showing genetic sequences, physical capabilities, and historical analyses of various species. "Most council species show clear evidence of evolutionary strength," Keltherin continued. "The Zephrani evolved in high-energy environments that forged their energy manipulation abilities. The Kelvids survived on a world with gravity twice standard, making them naturally stronger. The Thexians developed advanced cognition to compensate for physical limitations. Each species has clear advantages that explain their success." He paused, and his compound eyes fixed on Chen Wei. "Then we have humanity, a species from a comfortable world with moderate gravity, mild temperature variations, and abundant resources. A species that took thousands of years longer than average to develop spaceflight. A species that spent most of its history fighting itself rather than progressing. According to our analysis, humans should not have survived long enough to reach the stars." The display changed to show images of Earth, then human anatomy, then historical footage of human wars. Chen Wei recognized some of it. Battles from world wars, nuclear explosions, footage of human suffering. Where had they gotten these records? Humanity's history reveals a species that excels at only one thing: cowardice disguised as survival. When faced with strong opponents, humans retreat. When confronted with difficult decisions, they delay and avoid. Their evolution favored those who hid, rather than those who fought. Their genetic structure shows reduced aggression markers compared to every other council species. Other representatives stirred uneasily. Some looked at Chen Wei, perhaps waiting for her to respond. She did not. She simply watched and recorded, her face calm. "This brings me to my proposal," Keltherin said. "I believe humanity should be reclassified as a protectorate species. They clearly lack the fundamental strength required for full council membership. They need guidance and protection from more capable species. Under this classification, they would retain limited representation but would surrender voting rights and territorial sovereignty. The Vrexian Dominion volunteers to serve as their primary protector." The chamber erupted in conversation. Some species seemed shocked by this proposal. Others nodded thoughtfully, as if they had been thinking the same thing. The council speaker called for order, but the noise continued for several minutes. Chen Wei sat perfectly still. Inside, her mind worked rapidly. This was not just an insult. This was an attempted takeover. The Vrexians wanted Earth's territory, its resources, and its population as subjects, and they were using pseudo-scientific racism to justify it. "We must put this to a vote," the speaker said eventually. "But first, we should hear from other species. Does anyone wish to speak in support or opposition to this proposal?" 6 species spoke in support. They cited humanity's passivity, their lack of military engagement, their refusal to expand territory or participate in council competitions. Each speaker added their own observations about human weakness. The words varied, but the message was the same. Humans were inferior and did not deserve their current status. 3 species spoke in opposition, though their arguments were weak. They suggested the proposal was too extreme, that perhaps a probationary period would be better, that stripping voting rights seemed harsh. None of them actually defended humanity as equals. They just thought the Vrexian approach was too direct. "Does Earth wish to respond before the vote?" the speaker asked. Every eye in the chamber turned to Chen Wei. She had sat silently through an hour of her species being called weak, cowardly, and genetically inferior. She had watched footage of humanity's worst moments displayed like evidence in a trial. She had heard 6 species agree that humans should become subjects rather than equals. Chen Wei stood slowly. The chamber fell silent. In 15 years, she had spoken perhaps 100 words in council sessions. Now everyone waited to see what she would say. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of species after species. Some looked smug. Others looked curious. A few looked uncomfortable. She let the silence stretch for several seconds. "You should have accepted our silence as mercy," she said quietly. Then she gathered her tablet and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the silent chamber. No one moved. No one spoke. They were too surprised by her sudden departure to react immediately. "Ambassador Chen," the speaker called. "The vote has not been taken. You must remain for..." "Earth recalls its ambassadors from all council facilities effective immediately," Chen Wei said without turning around. "We will not return." She reached the chamber doors. They slid open and she walked through without looking back. Behind her, the chamber exploded with noise. Questions, demands, confusion. Let them talk. Earth was done listening. Within the hour, every human diplomat on the council station had returned to their embassy. They gathered essential materials and prepared for immediate departure. The council sent multiple messages demanding explanation. Chen Wei ignored them all. She sent one message to Earth Command. They took the bait. Proceeding to Phase 2. The response came back quickly. "Understood. Defense platforms are active. Fleet is moving to position. Good luck, Ambassador." Chen Wei allowed herself a smile. For 15 years, Earth had played the role of weak newcomer perfectly. They had endured insults, accepted losses, and appeared to lack any spine whatsoever. All while building the most advanced defensive and offensive military system the galaxy had ever seen. Humanity had studied warfare for 10,000 years. They had perfected strategies that the honor-bound council species considered dishonorable or unthinkable. They had built weapons designed not for ritual combat, but for total destruction. They had prepared for this exact scenario from the moment they joined the council. The Vrexians thought human silence meant fear. They were about to learn what it actually meant. Back in the council chamber, Keltheron was celebrating. The vote had been postponed due to Earth's dramatic exit, but he felt confident it would pass when reconvened. Several species had approached him privately to express support. The humans were isolated and weak. This would be easy. "Should we be concerned about their withdrawal?" one of his advisors asked. It seemed almost like a threat. Keltheron's mandibles clicked with amusement. "Concerned about humans? They are cowards. They will hide on their little planets and hope we forget about them. But we will not forget. We will give them time to reconsider, and then we will take what should be ours. If they resist, we will remind them why strength matters in this galaxy." He sent orders to his military commanders. "Prepare the fleet for movement toward human space." Not a full invasion force yet, just enough ships to intimidate. He expected humanity to send desperate messages begging for negotiation within days. The humans did send a message, but not to Keltheron. They sent it on every communication frequency the Council used. Every species received it simultaneously. It was short and simple. "The Galactic Council has repeatedly insulted Earth and humanity. You have called us weak, cowardly, and inferior. You have proposed stripping our rights and territory. You have made a mistake. Humanity is no longer bound by Council rules or agreements. We withdraw from all treaties and alliances. Any military vessel entering human space without explicit permission will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly. You wanted to know what humanity is capable of. You are about to find out." The message ended. And a moment later, every human colony, station, and outpost in the galaxy went dark. Their communication stopped. Their trade ceased. Their civilian ships began the journey back to human space. It was as if humanity had suddenly pulled back behind a wall. On the council station, representatives gathered in emergency meetings. Some were nervous. Most were dismissive. The Zafrani ambassador spoke for many when he said, "They are throwing a tantrum. When they realize no one cares, They will come back and apologize. Only a few species felt genuine unease. The railgun projectile moved at 40% the speed of light. It was a simple tungsten rod. No explosives, no special technology, just mass and velocity. It hit the shields of Keltheron's flagship and passed through them like they were not there. Council shields were designed to stop energy weapons and slow-moving missiles. They had never been designed to stop something moving that fast. The rod punched through the dominant claw's forward armor, traveled the length of the ship, and exited through the engine section. Everything it touched was instantly vaporized by the kinetic energy. The ship broke in half and began to drift, its power systems failing. Keltheron pulled himself up from where the impact had thrown him. Alarms screamed throughout the ship. His crew shouted damage reports. Emergency lights flickered. He could not believe what had just happened. One shot. One shot had crippled his flagship. All ships evasive maneuvers. He commanded, "Locate the weapon and destroy it." His remaining 22 ships scattered, their sensors searching desperately for targets. They found hundreds, all around them, in positions that should have been empty space. Defense platforms materialized. They had been there all along, using stealth technology that made them invisible to Council sensors. The platforms opened fire. More railgun rounds screamed through space. 2 Vrexian destroyers exploded instantly. A cruiser lost its entire port side. Another ship tried to jump to faster than light speed, but was hit before the jump could complete. The resulting explosion was visible from the planet's surface. "Sir, we are being torn apart," his tactical officer screamed. "Their weapons are too fast. Our shields cannot stop them. Our evasion systems cannot predict their trajectories." "We need to retreat." Keltheron watched his fleet dying in real time. Ships he had commanded for years, crews he had trained personally, all being destroyed by weapons that should not exist. The humans had built things that violated every Council assumption about warfare. "Full retreat," he finally ordered. "All ships jump immediately." 12 ships remained functional enough to jump. They fled human space, leaving behind burning wreckage and thousands of dead Vrexian warriors. The entire engagement had lasted 4 minutes. As the survivors limped back toward Vrexian territory, they received another transmission on all Council frequencies. This time it was not a warning. It was a broadcast meant for the entire galaxy. "This is Earth Defense Command broadcasting to all Galactic Council members. You called us weak. You called us cowards. You proposed to strip our rights and take our territory." Chapter Master Keltheron of the Vrexian Dominion entered human space with aggressive intent. His fleet has been neutralized. We returned his surviving ships to Vrexian space as a courtesy. This courtesy will not be extended again. The transmission continued, and this time the calm professional voice carried an edge of something the galaxy had not heard from humanity before. Confidence backed by proven strength. "For 15 years we observed your council in silence. You believed our silence meant ignorance or fear. You were wrong. We were studying. We analyzed every species' military capabilities, tactical doctrines, and cultural approaches to warfare. We identified weaknesses in your systems that your honor-based combat traditions prevented you from seeing. Across the galaxy, in council chambers and military command centers, representatives and commanders watched the transmission with growing unease. Some still dismissed it as human arrogance. Others were beginning to understand that something fundamental had changed. Humanity did not come to the stars unprepared for conflict. We came hoping to avoid it. We have 10,000 years of warfare in our history. We nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. We built weapons that could end all life on our planet. We fought wars where millions died. We perfected tactics you would consider dishonorable: total war, mutually assured destruction, guerrilla combat, and strategic deception. We studied warfare not as ritual or honor contest, but as survival. The transmission showed footage now, videos of human military exercises that no council species had known were happening. Fleets conducting maneuvers in deep space, weapons tests on remote asteroids, training simulations that demonstrated tactical approaches no council species had ever considered. We stayed silent because we hoped to be different among the stars. We hoped to leave our violent past behind. You have proven this hope was naive. You respect only strength. Very well, we will show you strength. In the Zafrani home system, Ambassador Laresh watched the transmission with growing horror. She had laughed when the humans walked out of the council. She had supported the Vrexian proposal. Now she was seeing the truth. Humanity had been preparing for this exact scenario since they joined the Council. Every insult endured, every slight accepted, every territorial loss absorbed without protest had been part of a larger plan. They were never weak, Lyresh said quietly to her advisors. They were patient. They wanted us to underestimate them. On the Kelvid command station, military planners were conducting emergency assessments. The footage from Keltheron's fleet had been analyzed. The speed of those railgun rounds, the stealth technology, the coordination of the defense platforms, it all suggested a level of military sophistication, far beyond what Council intelligence had estimated. We assumed their technology was inferior because they never displayed it, one planner said. We were wrong. They have been hiding their true capabilities since first contact. The Thexian collective, known for their advanced strategic thinking, came to an even more disturbing conclusion. Their chief analyst presented findings to their High Council. The humans have been conducting a 15-year intelligence operation against the entire Galactic Council. Every silence was an opportunity to observe. Every insult endured gave them time to learn more about us. They have likely identified tactical weaknesses in every Council species' military doctrine. Back on Earth, in the command center buried deep beneath Geneva, Fleet Admiral Martinez watched the situation boards with grim satisfaction. The Vrexian attack had gone exactly as predicted. Earth's intelligence division had calculated a 73% probability that the Vrexians would respond to the withdrawal with military force. The defense platforms at New Geneva had been positioned specifically for this scenario. Status of the Vrexian survivors? Martinez asked. 12 ships entered Vrexian space 40 minutes ago, a tactical officer reported, all heavily damaged. They are broadcasting on all frequencies about human military capabilities. The galaxy is receiving first-hand accounts from Vrexian warriors about our weapons. Good. Fear based on rumors is less effective than fear based on direct experience. What about Council response? Multiple species are attempting to contact us through diplomatic channels. The Council speaker has sent 17 messages requesting negotiation. 3 species have moved their military assets away from our borders. 5 species have initiated emergency military assessments. No additional hostile movements detected, Martinez nodded. This was Phase 3 of the contingency plan Earth's leadership had developed years ago. Show overwhelming defensive capability without actually invading anyone. Let the galaxy understand that humanity could defend itself, but also show restraint by not pursuing the retreating Vrexians. Demonstrate strength and control simultaneously. Sir, another officer said, we are detecting a gathering of military forces near the Council station. It appears multiple species are forming a coalition fleet. Martinez had expected this too. The Council would not simply accept one of its members humiliating the Vrexians. They would see Earth's display of power as a threat to the entire galactic order. Pride would demand they respond with force. How many ships? Current count is 217 from 7 different species. More are joining. Intel suggests they are planning a coordinated strike against Earth itself. Around the command center, officers looked nervous. 200 ships against Earth's defenses was not the easy victory some had hoped for. But Martinez smiled slightly. This was actually the best possible outcome. They are making the same mistake the Vrexians made, he said. They are thinking in terms of honor and strength demonstrations. They believe if they show up with enough ships, we will back down. They do not understand human military doctrine yet. Sir? An officer asked. We do not fight to demonstrate strength. We do not fight for honor or glory. We fight to win. There are no rules in survival. The coalition fleet is thinking about how to show us they are stronger. We are thinking about how to destroy them if they attack. That difference in mindset is worth 100 ships. Martinez opened a channel to the military planning division. The Council is forming a coalition fleet. I want updated tactical assessments within the hour. Focus on their likely approach vectors, their communication protocols, and weaknesses in multi-species fleet coordination. Also prepare psychological warfare packages. Let us remind them what we learned from 10,000 years of fighting. Ourselves. The transmission from Earth. Defense Command ended with a final statement that would be debated in Council chambers for months afterward. We are not your enemies. We do not wish to conquer your worlds or dominate your species. But we will not accept subjugation. We will not be called inferior. We will not surrender our freedom because you believe strength entitles you to take it. The coalition fleet assembled at the Council station over 6 days. 7 species contributed ships. The Vrexians seeking revenge, the Thexians believing human technology threatened galactic stability, the Kelvids concerned about the precedent of ignoring council authority, and 4 others who simply wanted to maintain the status quo. Together they gathered 347 warships, the largest military force assembled since the council's founding. Supreme Commander Thrakos, a Thexian chosen to lead the coalition, stood on the bridge of his command carrier and watched his fleet form up. Each species maintained its own squadron formation, their different ship designs creating a chaotic but impressive display of power. He felt confident. The humans had surprised the Vrexians, but surprise only worked once. The coalition had studied the battle footage, adapted their tactics, and prepared countermeasures. All squadrons report ready, his tactical officer announced. Fleet coordination protocols are synchronized. We can jump to human space on your command. Thrakos reviewed the battle plan one final time. A 3-pronged assault on human territory, simultaneous attacks on 3 separate colony worlds. Overwhelming force applied to multiple targets to spread human defenses thin. Standard military doctrine for fighting an enemy with limited resources. Execute the jump, Thrakos ordered. The coalition fleet entered faster than light travel, confident they would teach humanity a harsh lesson about challenging the council. They emerged in human space expecting immediate combat. Instead, they found empty orbital space. The colony below them showed no signs of life. The cities were dark. The orbital stations were abandoned. Just like at New Geneva, the humans had evacuated. They ran away, a Vrexian commander said with satisfaction over the fleet communication channel. They know they cannot face our combined strength. Thrakos was less certain. He had read human military history, the files that had been compiled from their own databases when they joined the council. Humans did not simply run away. They had a saying, a tactical retreat is not surrender. But where had they retreated to? Sensors, full scan of the system, Thrakos ordered. Find their defensive platforms. They must be here somewhere. The sensor officer worked for several minutes, then reported with confusion in his voice. Sir, I am detecting no defense platforms. No hidden installations. No weapon signatures. The system appears genuinely empty except for the abandoned colony. That made no sense. Why evacuate a colony but leave it undefended? Thrakos felt unease growing in his mind. What about the other 2 attack groups? Do they report similar findings? Sir, both report the same situation. Empty colonies, no defenses, no resistance. Something was very wrong. Thrakos had commanded fleets for 30 years. He had fought in a dozen conflicts. Every instinct told him this was not victory. This was a trap. But what kind of trap? Where were the humans? The answer came not as an attack but as a transmission. It appeared on every screen in every ship simultaneously, bypassing their communication security as if it did not exist. Supreme Commander Thrakos, we know you lead the coalition fleet. We know the names of every commander and every ship you brought to our space. We know your tactical doctrine and your fleet composition. We have been watching you assemble for 6 days. We know everything about you. The voice was calm and professional, exactly like the previous transmissions from Earth Defense Command, but now it carried an undertone of something else. Pity. You believe you have superior numbers and that we fled in fear. You are wrong on both counts. We evacuated our colonies because we do not want civilian casualties, and we did not flee. We simply chose our own battlefield. Thrakos felt ice forming in his blood. Get me a source location on that transmission immediately. Sir, it is coming from everywhere and nowhere. They have infiltrated our entire communications network. They are inside our systems. The transmission continued. You made a fundamental error in your planning, Commander. You assumed our defenses would be static installations like the platforms at New Geneva. You assumed we would defend territory the way you would defend territory. You assumed we think like you think. Around the fleet, warning alarms began sounding. Ships reported strange readings. Energy signatures appearing where nothing had been moments before. Movement in all directions. We do not think like you, the voice said. We spent 10,000 years fighting the most dangerous enemy humanity has ever faced. Ourselves. We learned deception, misdirection, and psychological warfare. We learned that the enemy's mind is the most important battlefield. Right now, you are beginning to understand that you made a terrible mistake coming here. Thrakos saw it then on his tactical display. Ships. Hundreds of human ships were appearing out of what should have been empty space, stealth fields dropping, revealing a fleet that had been hidden all around them. The Coalition fleet was not the hunter. They were the prey, and they had walked directly into a carefully prepared killing ground. All ships defensive formation, Threkos ordered. Activate all countermeasures. But the human fleet did not attack, not yet. Instead, another transmission came through. You have 30 seconds to surrender your fleet. Power down your weapons and prepare to be escorted out of human space. If you do not comply, we will be forced to defend ourselves. Choose wisely. Keltheron's voice erupted over the fleet channel. Surrender, never. All Vrexian ships prepare to attack. Belay that order, Threkos shouted. Commander Keltheron, you have already lost one fleet. Do not make the same mistake twice. You are a coward like the humans, Keltheron screamed back. The Vrexian contingent will fight. 37 Vrexian ships broke formation and accelerated toward the nearest human vessels. Threkos watched helplessly as they charged into what was obviously a trap. The human ships did not scatter or retreat. They simply adjusted position slightly, and then space erupted with weapons fire. But not the railguns from New Geneva. These were different weapons. Missiles that moved erratically, impossible to target. Energy beams that shifted frequency to bypass shields. And something else. Electronic warfare that turned the Vrexian ships' own systems against them. Threkos watched in horror as Vrexian warships began firing on each other. Their targeting computers hijacked by human cyber weapons. Ships lost control of their maneuvering systems and collided with their own allies. Communication systems broadcast false orders that created chaos in Vrexian formations. In less than 2 minutes, the entire Vrexian contingent was destroyed or disabled without the human fleet taking a single casualty. This is Earth Defense Command. Your 30 seconds have expired. To the remaining Coalition ships, you now have a choice. Leave human space immediately, or share the fate of the Vrexian contingent. We do not wish to kill you, but we will if you force us to defend ourselves. Threkos made the hardest decision of his military career. All Coalition ships, stand down. Power down weapons and prepare for withdrawal. Several commanders protested, but Threkos cut them off. We have lost. Not because they are stronger, but because they fight in ways we never imagined. They have turned our own confidence into a weapon against us. We evacuate now or we die here. The Coalition fleet began its retreat, escorted by human ships that kept weapon systems locked on them the entire way to the system's edge. The humiliation was total and absolute. 347 ships had entered human space. 310 were leaving, and those only because the humans had allowed it. But the lesson humanity taught the Council was not over. As the Coalition fleet jumped to safety, transmissions began arriving at every Council member's home world. Detailed analysis of their military capabilities, their tactical weaknesses, their command structures. Everything Earth had learned in 15 years of silent observation. The Kelvid High Command received a file, showing how their gravity-enhanced strength was also a vulnerability. They required specific atmospheric conditions that could be exploited. The Zafrani Collective received analysis of their energy form biology and how certain frequency disruptions could incapacitate them. The Thexians received a breakdown of their command protocols and how their predictable honor-based decision-making could be manipulated. Every species received their own file, each one demonstrating that Earth had studied them in detail and identified critical weaknesses they did not even know they had. The message was clear. We could have destroyed you completely, but we chose not to. In the Council chamber, an emergency session devolved into chaos. Representatives shouted accusations at each other. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for negotiation. A few wise voices suggested that perhaps humanity had been right all along, and the Council's hierarchy based purely on strength was fundamentally flawed. The Delthian representative spoke again, and this time, more species listened. For years we watched the Council bully weaker members. We accepted it because we thought it was the natural order. The humans have shown us something else, that true strength includes the wisdom to not use overwhelming force. They could have destroyed both fleets completely. They chose not to. That is not weakness. That is civilization. On a Kelvid military installation, analysts were studying the human tactics in detail. Commander Grothak reviewed the battle footage for the 20th time, looking for something he had missed. 3 months had passed since the coalition fleet's defeat. 3 months of tense negotiations, diplomatic maneuvering, and fundamental changes in how the Galactic Council understood power. The Council Station had been partially rebuilt after structural damage from the political upheaval that followed humanity's demonstration of military capability. Today, it would host the most important session in its 300-year history. Ambassador Chen Wei walked through the station's corridors toward the council chamber. The journey felt different from every previous visit. Other species representatives moved aside as she passed. Some nodded respectfully. Others watched with barely concealed fear. A few looked away entirely, unwilling to meet her eyes. The Delthian ambassador approached her in the hallway, tentacles moving in a gesture Chen had learned meant gratitude. Ambassador Chen, I wanted to thank you before the session begins. What humanity did? It changed everything for species like mine. Chen Wei smiled gently. We did not do it for gratitude, Ambassador Kelvin. We did it because the Council's hierarchy was wrong. Strength should not give anyone the right to dominate others. Still, you have my people's gratitude, and our vote for the reforms you proposed today. Chen Wei nodded and continued toward the chamber. She carried no tablet this time. She would not be taking notes. Today she would be speaking, and the council would be listening. The great chamber fell silent as she entered. All 47 species were represented, though the Vrexian section was notably smaller. Chapter Master Keltherin had been removed from his position after losing 2 fleets to human forces. His replacement, Commander Vethis, looked considerably more humble than her predecessor. Chen Wei took Earth's seat and looked around the chamber. She let the silence stretch for a moment, remembering all the time she had sat here enduring insults while secretly recording everything. So much had changed. So much had stayed the same. The council speaker, the ancient Tal being with stone-like skin, stood to address the gathering. We convene this special session to address Earth's petition for return to the Galactic Council under revised terms. Ambassador Chen Wei has submitted proposals for structural reforms to how this council operates. These reforms are significant. The speaker's voice carried a weight that made it clear just how significant they were. Humanity was not just asking to return. They were demanding the council fundamentally change how it had operated for 3 centuries. The council recognizes Ambassador Chen Wei, the speaker said formally. Chen Wei stood. She looked around the chamber slowly, meeting eyes, acknowledging each species present. Then she began to speak, and her voice carried clearly through the translation systems. 3 months ago, Earth withdrew from this council after enduring years of insults and ultimately facing a proposal to strip us of our rights and territory. Some of you supported that proposal. Some opposed it. Most stayed silent. We left because we finally understood that silence and patience would never earn respect in a system built on displays of strength. She paused, letting her words settle. Several representatives shifted uncomfortably. What happened next surprised you. You expected us to be weak because we had been quiet. You assumed our technology was inferior because we never displayed it. You thought our refusal to engage in military competitions meant we could not fight. You were wrong on every count. Thrakos, the Thexian commander who had led the coalition fleet, sat very still in his section. He had submitted a full report on human tactics to his government. That report had fundamentally changed how his species viewed warfare. But here's what I want you to understand. Chen Wei continued. What you saw was not the full extent of human military capability. Those defense platforms, those stealth ships, those electronic warfare systems, they represent perhaps 40% of what Earth has prepared. We showed you enough to prove our point. We did not show you everything. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. This was news. The species that had studied the battles assumed they had seen humanity's best weapons. Learning there was more created visible anxiety among several delegations. I tell you this not as a threat, but as context for what I am about to explain. Earth came to the stars hoping to leave warfare behind. We have 10,000 years of history marked by conflict. We nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. We built weapons that could end all life on our world. We fought wars where millions died for small territories. We perfected the art of killing each other. Chen Wei's voice grew quieter, more intense. We know what we are capable of. We know what horrors we can create when we truly commit to warfare. And we desperately wanted to be something better among the stars. The chamber was absolutely silent now. Every species listened. But you made that impossible. You built a galactic society on the principle that might makes right, that the strong naturally dominate the weak, that honor and glory in combat determine worth. You created a council where bullying was policy and compassion was weakness. The Zafrani ambassador started to speak, but Chen Wei raised a hand. Please let me finish. This is important. She took a breath and continued. We stayed silent for 15 years. We endured your insults. We accepted territorial losses. We watched you mistreat species like the Delthians, and we said nothing. Do you know why? No one answered. Chen Wei did not wait for them to try, because we were hoping you would change on your own. We were hoping that by demonstrating a different way, by showing that strength could coexist with restraint, that power could be paired with mercy, we might inspire change. We were naive. You saw our restraint as weakness, our silence as ignorance, our mercy as cowardice. She let that sink in for a moment, then continued with steel in her voice. So we showed you what human warfare actually looks like. Not our full capability, but enough. Enough to prove we could defend ourselves. Enough to demonstrate that your honor-based combat traditions leave you vulnerable to enemies who fight differently. Enough to make you understand that we chose peace not from weakness, but from strength. Commander Vathus, the new Vrexian representative, spoke up. Ambassador Chen, the Vrexian Dominion acknowledges our mistakes. We underestimated your species. We insulted you. We paid the price for that arrogance. But what you are proposing? A complete restructuring of council hierarchy. That affects everyone, not just those who wronged you. Chen Wei turned to face the Vrexian. You are right. These reforms affect everyone. That is exactly the point. The council's current structure incentivizes aggression and punishes restraint. It rewards military posturing and dismisses diplomatic solutions. It creates a galaxy where species must constantly prove their strength or risk being subjugated. That system is wrong. It needs to change. She pulled up the reform proposals on the chamber's central display. Earth's requirements for returning to the council are simple, but non-negotiable. First, all species must be granted equal voting rights regardless of military strength or territorial holdings. Second, the council must establish binding protections for member species against territorial aggression. Third, military force may only be used defensively or with full council approval. Fourth, the council must create systems for resolving disputes through arbitration rather than strength contests. Several species began objecting simultaneously. The chamber filled with noise as representatives argued about the proposals. Chen Wei waited patiently for the speaker to restore order. These reforms would fundamentally alter how the council has operated for 3 centuries. The Kelvid representative protested. You are asking us to abandon traditions that have kept galactic peace for generations. Peace? Chen Wei's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. Is that what you call it when the Vrexians forced the Delthians off their worlds? When the Zafrani annexed Korthari territories? When dozens of smaller species live in constant fear of stronger neighbors? That is not peace. That is the absence of open warfare, enforced by fear and maintained by the strong dominating the weak. She swept her gaze across the chamber. Humanity will not participate in that system anymore. We will have equality, or we will remain apart from the council, and if we remain apart we will continue to grow stronger, while you continue fighting among yourselves over who is the biggest bully. The Delthian ambassador stood. The Delthian people support Earth's proposals completely. We have suffered under the current system for too long. If humanity's strength can create a better council, we welcome it. Slowly, other voices joined. The Korthari, another small species that had lost territory to stronger neighbors. The Marathi, who had remained neutral throughout the recent conflicts. The Solvani, who had secretly provided intelligence to Earth during the crisis. One by one, species that had been marginalized by the Council's strength-based hierarchy expressed support, but the stronger species remained resistant. The Thexians, Kelvids, and others who had benefited from the old system argued that Earth was trying to impose its values on the entire galaxy. Chen Wei listened to their objections, then spoke again. You are correct. These are human values. We believe all sentient species deserve equal rights and protections. We believe strength should be used to defend the weak, not dominate them. We believe cooperation is stronger than competition. These are indeed human values.